They came not for our worlds, not for our minerals, nor for our oceans, nor for our technology. They came for our emotions. The Threx Dominion called it the harvest of tears. To them, human sorrow was an energy, a biochemical frequency they could distill into a drug, a psychic elixir that extended their lives and heightened their senses. They believed pain was power, and humanity, with its fragile hearts and deep emotions, was the galaxy's richest vein. It began on New Carthage, a lush colony world at the edge of the Orion Arm, a peaceful world of artists, families, and dreamers. When the Threx fleet appeared in orbit, there were no warnings, no demands, only music. They broadcasted an ancient Threx dirge, a ceremonial song that played across every human channel. Then the bombardment began. Cities turned to vapor under ribbons of plasma fire. Oceans boiled, forests ignited, and skies burned crimson. From orbit, the Threx fed on the psychic echoes of a dying world. And as the last transmissions from New Carthage reached Earth, screams, sobbing children, desperate calls for help, the Threx commanders smiled. Admiral Zirkal, their fleet master, recorded his words into the stars. The humans weep beautifully. Their tears will feed us for generations. Let their world burn, and then silence. Arrogance of the Dominion across the galaxy, the Threx celebrated. In their spire cities carved from living crystal, they held feasts under the light of dying suns. They raised goblets filled with liquid luminescence and toasted to the age of human. Harvest, their seers whispered that humanity would beg for mercy before the next cycle ended. The Dominion broadcasted their triumph. Every species in the galactic network saw the footage. The vaporized cities, the floating debris fields, the oceans turned black. The Threx announcers laughed as they replayed human distress calls like entertainment. Their ambassador even stood before the Galactic Council, mockingly bowing to Earth's empty seat. We thank the Terrans for their tears. They served their purpose in the grand design. The other species watched in silence. Some pitied Earth, others feared the Threx's growing arrogance, but most believed it was over. Humanity would retreat, rebuild, or perhaps fade into memory like countless conquered species before. After all, humans were young, emotional, disorganized, civilized. Too civilized to respond. The Threx had forgotten the simplest truth in the galaxy. Civilization does not mean mercy. The day the stars went silent 2 weeks after New Carthage fell, the galaxy noticed something strange. Earth went silent. All transmissions ceased. No diplomatic signals, no commercial traffic, no chatter from the colonies. The Sol system became a dark void in the network. The Threx interpreted this as fear, a broken species retreating into silence. But the more observant races, those who had studied humanity's history, felt a cold wind in their bones. Because when humanity grew quiet, something was coming. One Threx scout fleet, stationed near the Oort boundary of Sol, reported strange readings, massive energy surges, subspace distortions, and then nothing. Their entire fleet disappeared. No debris, no distress call, just gone. Admiral Zirkal dismissed it. They ran into a solar flare, he sneered. Cowards or incompetents. Either way, they are unworthy of the Threx banner. But deep in Threx space, strange messages began to leak from listening posts. An ancient Terran transmission, repeating across all bands, encrypted in dozens of languages. Old and new, this is Earth Command. To the Dominion of Threx, we have received your message. We acknowledge your harvest. We will respond shortly. The voice was calm, cold, and then every Threx communications array across 6 systems went dark. Phew. The Earth that answered. They came out of the dark like ghosts. The Threx border patrols first detected gravitational anomalies, then shadows blotting out their sensors. Humanity's fleets emerged from warp in total silence. No lights, no transponders, no communication. Only the soundless dread of metal moving through the void. The fleet of retribution had arrived. At its head, the dreadnought Ea's Nemesis, over 15 kilometers long, black as a moonless night. Its hull etched with the names of every colony lost in the last 100 years. Behind it, 100 warships, carriers, artillery barges, gun cruisers, stealth corvettes, all painted in matte obsidian, broadcasting nothing but the symbol of a single burning tear, humanity's tear. The Threx fleet guarding the border scrambled to engage. They fired first. Plasma bolts and gravitic lances streaked across the void. The human ships didn't dodge, didn't even respond, until the Nemesis spoke. Admiral Zirkal, you wanted our tears. Allow us to deliver them, at terminal velocity. Then the sky turned white. Every Threx ship in orbit evaporated in less than 2 seconds. A single barrage, 12,000 kinetic rods, descending at relativistic speed, shattered the fleet and burned a hole into the planet below. Half the world became glass. Other half was already dead. The flood of rage, it wasn't a war. It was an extinction event. For every human life lost on New Carthage, the Terran fleets erased an entire Threx city. Their soldiers, the Sentinel Corps, descended like iron storms onto Threx worlds. They did not conquer. They did not enslave. They purged. Orbital bombardments melted continents. Atmospheric disruptors burned away the clouds, exposing scarred ground to relentless radiation. Human drop pods slammed into the surface with the force of meteor strikes, opening to release soldiers wrapped in exo-armor that walked through fire and ash as if it were air. Threx defenders screamed across the channels, begging for surrender. None was acknowledged. Admiral Zirkal's homeworld, Vathun, was the first capital to fall. Its crystal towers shattered under the impact of tungsten rain. Its oceans boiled into steam. When the last transmission reached the Dominion's central hub, all that was heard was Zirkal's final words. They are not fighting. They are avenging. And still humanity did not speak. No declarations. No threats. No diplomacy. Only vengeance executed with surgical, merciless precision. World by world, system by system, the Dominion drowned beneath an ocean of human rage. The last light of the Dominion. 3 months into the campaign, the Threx Dominion ceased to exist as a functioning government. Their fleets were annihilated, their communication grid reduced to static, refugee ships scattered across the stars, only to find every hyperspace corridor blockaded by human patrols. A captured Threx admiral was brought before the human fleet command aboard the Nemesis. His body trembled in the presence of the human commander, an old soldier named Marshal Varen Holt, a man who had lost his wife and 2 sons on New Carthage. Why? The Threx rasped. You've won. Our worlds burn. Our people starve. Why keep killing? Marshal Holt leaned forward, eyes empty, voice quiet. Because you wanted our tears. And now, you will drown in them. Outside the viewport, the Threx homestar erupted. The humans had triggered a chain reaction, a stellar implosion weapon, collapsing the star into itself. The system vanished into a sphere of blinding white, swallowing everything that bore the Dominion's mark. When the light faded, only the black hole remained, a fitting monument. The aftermath. When it was over, humanity said nothing. No parades, no speeches, no victory celebrations. The fleet of retribution returned to Sol in silence. The ships were not greeted with cheers, but with bowed heads, for humanity had not achieved victory. It had executed judgment. Across the galaxy, other species trembled. The Threx had been ancient, powerful, dominant, and yet they had fallen in months. No one could comprehend the scale of destruction humanity had unleashed. Entire sectors now glowed like open wounds, remnants of worlds that no longer existed. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. An old Varan diplomat whispered the thought that haunted them all. The humans weep for their dead, but if they ever rage again, none of us will survive it. From that day, no one spoke lightly of Earth. Children in faraway worlds grew up hearing the stories. How humans turned grief into annihilation, how their silence meant death, how their vengeance was infinite. They called it the Black Tide. And in the archives of every intelligent race, one message remains, sent from Earth to all galactic channels at the end of the war. To those who seek our tears, remember New Carthage. Remember the Dominion. We are patient. We are kind, but we are never weak. 8. The whispered legend centuries later, when the wounds of that war had faded into myth, there were still ruins that glowed faintly in the void. Dead worlds turned to glass by humanity's rage. Explorers would sometimes stumble upon them, and the whispers would return. The Threx are gone. The Dominion erased, but the legend endures. Every commander, every emperor, every would-be conqueror who dreams of subjugating the humans hears the same warning whispered in council halls and starports alike. Never make them cry, because tears are sacred to humanity. They fall for love, for loss, for beauty, and for vengeance. And those who seek to harvest them will always learn the same truth. The tears of Earth are oceans, and in those oceans, tyrants drown.